Howdy, folks. The time has come for me to talk about Lonesome Dove. Got my toothpick in, wore my nice kickers for this one. I even got my hat on. Got this Pickle Time beer in honor of Pickles Gap, and it's got dirt on it because I dropped it. But all that to say, we're talking about this here Lonesome Dove, one of the greatest novels of all time. How long do I keep this up for? You want to hear me talk like this for a while? Let's open this up. Oh, a little bit of fizz coming out. I can't drink with a toothpick. I didn't think this through quite. Oh, that is delightful. Sam's my dog. Sam, this is delightful. Would you like a sip? You can't have one. Okay. The comedy's going away. I thought this would be a funny angle for this book because most people are serious when they talk about Lonesome Dove. I'll drop the accent so you can actually actually listen to me. But yeah, I read Lonesome Dove every page. It was without a doubt one of my favorite novels I've ever read. One of the best pieces of fiction or nonfiction that I've ever encountered. It is a tremendous story of love, of heartache and loss. Um, it's a journey, literally and figuratively, and it just has a timeless feel to it. Where, especially being from America, where I'm from the middle of the country, where I had family members, as most of us did, that were descendants of settlers, pioneers, people who came and settled this land. And I'm not here to talk about like the politics of how America was founded and all that kind of stuff. What I am here to talk about is that the historical significance of this book, and I think the fact that the narrative is told in a way that is engaging, and it truly brings you right into the West, or the South in this case. But just before things had been settled, when things were still wild, when buffalo still were roaming the plains. Um, I'll try to talk about this in a way that is like just true to the story, true to the book. So when I'm talking about Indians, I'm talking about American Indians. I'm purely talking about what's in this book. I'm not trying to, again, make some statement about. I feel like I have to say that just so I don't piss anybody off. I just want to talk about the book. This is a book by Larry McMurtry. Most of you are familiar with it, so I don't need to go into a huge thing about it. But it's a winner of the Pulitzer Prize for literature. He also co-authored the screenplay for Brokeback Mountain, a very famous Western love story that won an Academy Award. It looks like. So anyway, I bought a bunch of McMurtry's since then that are just like beat up paperbacks. That if I want to dive back in, I'm definitely going to read more of him. But where to begin? I mean, this book. I'll try to be light on spoilers here at the beginning, and then I'll kind of talk about my thoughts. Spoilers ahead. You could listen for now if you haven't read this book. We begin with these two friends, Woodrow Call and Augustus McCrae. These are two former Texas Rangers who have settled in the little town of Lonesome Dove in Texas, and they're kind of on South Texas border between America and Mexico, and they're kind of they sort of do horse trading, cattle ranching. They really don't do a whole lot. They just kind of they work in this small town. There's a saloon. There's a couple of there's a couple folks, but it's a relatively small town with a tiny little community, and they the picture that's painted of this place is so bleak yet so um, warm, and again figuratively and literally, because it's South Texas. But you have this just immediate attachment to the characters, like truly like no other book I've ever read, where you instantly know Call and you know Augustus or Gus, um, like you've known them for 20 years. They remind me a lot of like grandparents, or great uncles that I have, where you just have this kind of timeless sense about you that you've seen a lot, you know a lot, you've experienced a lot more than me, and you know you saw America change. I think is kind of how I equate that, where these men have this experience that most of the people around there don't, and they revere them for it, but neither boasts it in a way that is unlikable. So you immediately fall in love with these two characters, and there are tons of characters. But one of the best things I think about this book is McMurtry's way of weaving in like sort of side characters in a way where you don't they're unique enough where you remember them for as much time as he wants you to remember them. So there are characters that appear for one chapter, like the woman that encounters Roscoe as he's looking for July, or July Johnson, um, and she's in it for a chapter. We never hear of her again. Um, I won't go on with like a list of just a bunch of side characters, but they those side characters that are very small, that have small appearances, ultimately like flesh out the other characters that we care about a little bit more. He does this like hierarchical way of making us care about characters. So all the characters on the bottom that sort of fill this world that's around us, we don't really need to know their name. We don't need to know a ton about them. We just need to know how they interact with our main characters. And he does that in such a way that builds this second level of characters that we know and love, but who are also not the main characters. They're a bunch of the men who go on the journey with Gus and Call to Montana, where we know a lot of them throughout the book, but we don't know a ton about them, just little things here and there, and we get to know them. And those characters are even more purposeful in fleshing out our true main characters. And I just think that he does such a great job of like the world building in this that truly makes you feel like you're just in South Texas on a horse, just riding by, and you see these guys. Um, I think so. The characters, it's the best character work I've ever read. It truly is. You care so deeply about these characters, and they're so real. The world is real, and it's just so beautiful too. The landscape that's told, um, beautiful in a good and a kind of heartbreaking way in a lot of ways. Um, the other thing I'll mention is pacing in this book is tremendous. For as long as this book is, my copy is about 860 pages or so. For as long as this book is, and as long as it took me to read it, it never slowed down in a way where I lost interest in it. It was always there on the nightstand for a couple of chapters, and then near the end I read ferociously because I wanted to finish it and I was so eager to see what happened. But the pacing is second to none. It is so good. It's my second favorite book I've ever read, next to Lord of the Rings / The Hobbit. I'm not going to distinguish between those two. Those four books that Tolkien wrote, or maybe two, however you want to categorize them, those have a much slower pacing. And I do think, for as tremendous of a work as they are, the pacing is maybe what could take away from that work. The pacing in this is perfect. It has zero flaws in pacing. Trying to think if I want to mention anything else that's spoiler free. Um, should I take my glasses off? Or should I keep them on? Let me make sure I'm recording still. I get this fear every time I record. Oh, we're only 10 minutes in. I get this fear every time I record that my camera is going to go out on me like it always does. Man, that is a really good beer. I'm into like pickle flavored stuff. It's not overpowering. I'll just do a quick plug for Pickle Time by Zipline Brewing. It's freaking great. Like I said, in honor of Pickles Gap, a place in this book. All right, spoilers ahead. I'm going to talk about some kind of things that happen in the book, and I would really advise you, if you've never read this book, to shut the video off, go read it before you return to this, because part of the reason why this book was so dang good is I did not know what happened. I never got this spoiled, thankfully, and I know people hate spoilers, and it's one of those things that can ruin a great story. But I had it guessed from the start that spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I had a guess from the start that Gus was going to die. I told my dad, maybe not from the start, I guess, maybe a third of the way in the book, I'm like, Gus is going to die. And I also said that Newt was going to die too. I kept telling my dad, there is a reason why we haven't found out about why there's been little hints about Call being Newt's dad this whole time. I think it's going to rip your heart out at the end. Newt and Gus are going to die. That's what I anticipated. I was half right because Gus, probably the favorite character in this book, dies, of course. It's one reason that it's such a well-known and loved classic. You can't hardly write timeless books and tales of just legend without killing off the main characters or doing something that really rips your heart out, because the emotional tie to these characters after this many pages, after 700 something pages, and finally you start to get this sense, this dread when the Indians are surrounding Pi and Gus, that Gus isn't going to make it, and he does such a good job of making you think he might, but you have this worry that you're like, he's going down, isn't he? And um, I just I wasn't necessarily expecting the very end, the last 30 pages or so, where Call rolls into Lonesome Dove and it's just empty, and it's the saloon's burned down, and for it to just end on this kind of whimper, I guess, this sad note of like he delivers Gus's body and that's it. And but I guess it's fitting, when I think about it, it's fitting for the type of tale that was told, because it's not your classic Western movie where, and I'm sorry if the wind's getting kind of strong out here, so if it's blown into the mic, I'm sorry. Your classic Western and your kind of your hero that can't die, that's just not at all what this is. I mean, people die throughout this book consistently. I mean, you have one of the O'Brien boys drown in the river as soon as they start. All the water moccasins that all the snakes that get him in the river. That was harrowing. And I think let's see who got. Oh, when Dietz died, man, I think that one hurt as bad as Gus. The way he died was so just, man, it sunk me. I was crying reading that chapter because of just the innocence and just the love that Dietz had for other people, even in a time historically, again, where I think some folks just did not look favorably upon African American people. And I mean, this was written with some language in it. I'll mention that. If you're this far into the video, I guess you've probably already read it, but the language is historically accurate is kind of all I'll say about that. But that was a really heartbreaking moment. And Jake, man, Jake freaking Spoon. McMurtry does a great job of introducing Jake at the beginning, and he's the whole reason they go on this quest to Montana and drive these cattle. And he ends up kind of turning down this dark path, and it's you don't feel sorry for him, I don't think, because he chose that path. He especially chose that path when he left Lori, because you come to love Lori so much, and I think she represents a lot of just innocence that got ripped away by that world and the way that things were, done back in the day. People just took. there was this code of honor among most people, and then the people who didn't abide by that code of honor just took, and they took with force. And I think that's when you really come to hate Jake, because he has this charm about him when he first, when he first oh, there's somebody coming up the path. I'm going to be in this dang cowboy hat. Hold on. I can't I can't actually sit here and be on this cowboy hat. Hold on. Be on this cowboy hat is what I said. Sam, come here. Come here. Sam, no speak. And he speaks. Sam. No, we're not going to work. No. I'm not cutting that. And I'm putting my hat back on. I couldn't actually just sit here while people walked by and I was wearing a cowboy hat in front of a camera. Should I have done it for the bit? I'm too shy. I'm like Call, I get quiet. I'm too shy. Where was I? Let's use that as like a metaphor for unexpected things happen consistently in this book, as they did back in the day. And Jake is a very good testament of that, because Jake Spoon, like he was so charming at the beginning when he came in, and Gus and Woodrow were both like, welcome back, old pal, and they remember him fondly. And then you see this kind of descent into selfishness, true selfishness, where he gets wrangled up with the band of outlaws. And hi, buddy. Um, he's gonna be my pet pig. The the little what are they? Blue shoats? Isn't that what they're called in the book? They open on it. Let's go look. The blue shoats. Yep. When Augustus came out on the porch, the blue pigs were eating a rattlesnake. Not a very big one. um, yeah, Jake was one of those linchpins in the story that I feel like was really interesting, because he's threaded throughout the whole thing, and he is the engine that ultimately like begins this whole thing. But Call is the only one left at the end. And I really, it broke my heart as a dad to a son to watch the way that Call handled himself with Newt. I think this is the last thing I think I'm going to talk about, and then I'll probably just end the video. I don't want to drone on too long, even though I could. This book it's just tremendous. Yeah, it really broke my heart to watch Call throughout the novel, as we started to realize that he was Newt's father, that he never gave him his name. He never really admitted it, even knowing it. Um, that was hard to read. I think especially there at the end, when you're just dying and longing to see him say it to Newt. And Newt knew after Gus, told him. But man, it just, the pain of that scene when he gives him the horse. He gives him the horse, right? He gives him the horse. I think he gives him the gun, but he still won't say it at the very end of the book. And Newt just kind of like, he's just kind of like accepted it. And he longs to see him kind of ride back and tell him, but he never does. And it's just really somber. It's a really sad end to that relationship that I feel like it's reflective of a lot that happened back then, and it's reflective of a lot of sad tragedies where people, kids don't grow up with their parents. That is one of the deepest things I think since becoming a father that I think reaches me, is people who, it hurts my heart really deeply for people who don't have parents, or whose parents abandon them. And I mean, Newt's a great example of somebody who overcame that and who I think tried to live up to his father's example, even though he didn't really know his father. Um, he did know his father, and I think it's a complicated thing, and it makes for a really interesting narrative. Um, yeah, I don't know. I could keep going. I love PI. Um, there were so many moments in this book that were funny. Will Barger and Augustus's back and forth about the Latin on the sign was hilarious. Then Will Barger dies, and he kind of admits at the end, "I didn't know Latin either." Uh, it's just a 10 out of 10 book. It's one that I've seen a lot on BookTube, lately. Some people my age have kind of sort of discovered this book, I guess, and it's made a renaissance. That's probably the wrong way to phrase it. Anyway, um, I hope that this was a fun way to kind of, I guess, experience hearing my experience of reading the book. I feel like I just kind of just rambled for 20 minutes, but that's okay. I adore this book. It's my second favorite book that I've ever read, I think. I'm really eager for my buddy Luke to finish it because we were reading it at the same time. He's probably halfway through it now. Um, I keep having to hold my tongue, being like, I can't tell you anything, and I'm really excited to tell you stuff. So finish it. So Luke, if you're at this point, you've already spoiled it for yourself. Shame on you. Um, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But it's a perfect novel. It's There's not one that I've read like it. It's wonderful, and I'm gonna watch the miniseries way back from, I think, gotta be the 80s, maybe 70s. Um, with my parents, they loved it, and neither of them have read the book, but they loved the miniseries, and they wanted to watch it with me after I finished reading. So we watched the first episode, and um, the casting is wonderful. So I'm eager to watch that and just re-experience it, see another interpretation of it. I hope you enjoyed my cowboy hat moment. I should probably do like a thumbnail right now. I won't do it on video. um, cheers to Lonesome Dove. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I know this was off the beaten path for what I usually do, so appreciate you indulging me. Um, yeah, I had a great time reading this. Had a great time talking about it. I'll see you in the next one.